Distinguished guests, I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's Foundation Day, the most prestigious event in our calendar. It's wonderful that so many friends from our great city region and far beyond are with us to enjoy this year's celebrations. And today they are especially important because they include the installation of our new Chancellor, Mr. Nazir Afzal. Welcome, Nazir. Given this, I'm pleased that one of our former Chancellors, Anna Ford, is here with us today. And I want to thank Anna and our other former Chancellors for their fantastic contributions to the university. We also welcome 3 of our founders, whose foresight in embarking on the creation of this great institution is honoured here each year, and many other friends. As we reflect on our foundation in 2004, we pay our respects to our late Sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II, who sadly died last month. She holds a special place in our history and our affections, having presented the university's Royal Charter in 2004. For those of you who will remember, she had a suit that perfectly matched the university purple. We're grateful for her exemplary and extraordinary life and public service, and we would also like to offer our warmest wishes to His Majesty, King Charles III, and our hopes for a long and successful reign. I'll give a brief update on the university in a moment and the achievements, just a few of them, that we've enjoyed over the year. Then we'll move to the ceremonial parts of the proceedings. First, of course, Nazir's installation as Chancellor, followed by his reply. Then he will take over as presiding officer and will confer honorary doctorates on our graduates in recognition of their remarkable achievements. This year, we're delighted to honour Amani Abzaid, Edward Assel, who will reply on behalf of the graduates, and Julie Hesmond-Halsh. Congratulations to you all in advance. The Chancellor will then bring the ceremony to a close. So the past 12 months, we have again faced challenging external circumstances, and indeed, we still all do. But we've continued to make great progress against the ambitions outlined in the university's strategic plan, Our Future. We've maintained our reputation as one of the world's leading universities, ranking 28th in the world and 6th in the UK in the QS World University Rankings. We also ranked yet again among the top 10 universities globally for social and environmental impact, something that we started in 2010, and I think is a testament to the university's continued commitment to social responsibility of one of our 3 goals. Still, I think the only university to have this as a core goal. In May, we celebrated the excellent results of the UK's Research Excellence Framework. In this, our research was judged to be 93% world-leading or internationally excellent. These are exceptional results, and my great thanks to all involved in bringing the quality and impact of our research to the world's attention. I'm proud to say we are still the most popular university in the UK for undergraduate applications and the most targeted by leading employers, who recognise the value of the transformational activities we offer, helping students to develop into responsible leaders of the future. We continue to focus on delivering outstanding student experiences and outcomes, but our disappointing result in the National Student Survey reminds us just how much more we need to do. Our overall score remained the same as last year, but it fell well short of our target. And we're listening carefully to student feedback to identify what actions we can take to make improvements for them. Well-being remains a priority to us, particularly in the current cost of living crisis. We have an extensive mental health and financial support provision in place to help students and staff realise their potential, particularly in such challenging times. We continue to push forward with our commitment to lifelong and flexible learning, which will provide a greater degree of choice over how students learn and to prepare graduates for work in an increasingly changing and digital world. In the past year, we've engaged extensively with students and colleagues to develop our flexible learning strategy and co-create plans that will enable rather than enforce change. Civic engagement is a key theme of our future, and I'm delighted that some of our civic leaders are here with us today. We continue to lead and join initiatives that target the region's most pressing challenges to help build an even greater Manchester. This includes completion of our joint venture with Bruntwood SciTech with their partner Legal & General to establish Innovation District Manchester, the new innovation district that will transform our North Campus and play a vital role in the future of UK science, research and technology. Further from home, Russia's unprovoked attack on Ukraine brought devastation and threatened the safety and well-being of citizens in many places. We moved quickly to evacuate staff and students in affected areas. We put new conflict support measures in place, which have been extended to help others impacted by global crises. And we very quickly set up a fund to help students who were affected. Our thoughts, of course, remain with everyone in Ukraine and in other parts of the world affected by turmoil. Finally, of course, our people are at the very heart of the university. And I want to thank my colleagues, students, alumni, friends, for their tremendous effort and commitment throughout the year. We're all aware that these are uncertain times, and we cannot underestimate the difficulties and challenges, such as cost of living, are creating for our community and for society more generally. But we will continue to adapt and lead with the resolve and spirit that Manchester is known for, and seek to deliver change that is responsible, inclusive, and sustainable. This has started with the launch of our equality, diversity and inclusion and people strategies. Both have been developed in extensive consultation with our colleagues. These strategies will help to reaffirm our position as an attractive place to work and study, and a place where everyone can feel proud to belong. We're now going to play you a short film that just captures a few of the snapshots of life in the university and reflects the efforts of our entire community in making an impact. Then we'll move to the ceremonial proceedings, which will be interspersed with music from our wonderful choir, Ad Solum Chamber Choir, and the University of Manchester Brass Ensemble and our staff musicians. Thank you to all of you.
Hello guys, my name is George, and today that will require me to do a cardio.
Really warm welcome today. Great to see you here at IS Manchester.
Look for the right number, and you need to put it there in the book.
Welcome to ID Manchester.
Satellite has been going out into space for many years now. The space race out on the edge of our solar system, and it's still sending back a signal.
Thank you to our musicians. Distinguished guests, it's my great pleasure and privilege as President and Vice-Chancellor to deliver the oration for Nazir Afzal OBE ahead of his formal installation as Chancellor. As many of you will be aware, Nazir has made a truly outstanding contribution to public service over many years. Nazir grew up in the Midlands, the son of migrants, in a two-up, two-down house with 6 siblings, attending local state schools before studying law at the University of Birmingham and training as a solicitor. He then worked as a solicitor for 3 years before joining the Crown Prosecution Service. He became a Crown Prosecutor for London in 1991 and shortly afterwards was an Assistant Chief Crown Prosecutor. He was awarded an OBE in 2005 for his work. In 2011, he was appointed North West Chief Crown Prosecutor, where he was responsible for over 100,000 prosecutions a year. He was the first Muslim to be appointed to such a position. Nazir's prosecutions include a 1996 stalker of Princess Diana and the honour killing of Samira Nazir in 2005. In 2013, he was responsible for the prosecution of the disgraced former BBC presenter Stuart Hall. One of his first decisions on becoming a Chief Crown Prosecutor was to initiate prosecutions in the case of the Rochdale sex trafficking gang, overturning an earlier decision by the CPS. He suggested that oversensitivity of a profession dominated by white people who feared appearing racist could have contributed to justice being stalled. His fearless and determined prosecution work has undoubtedly helped change the landscape of child protection. He's also led nationally on legal topics such as violence against women and girls, forced marriage, honour-based violence, and child sexual abuse. He's become a key voice in difficult national debates about tackling extremism and radicalisation. His courage and integrity in campaigning on these issues is unquestionable and remains undiminished. None of these topics is easy, so it takes someone special to raise their head above the parapet, to shine a light on them, something Nazir has done over and over again, in spite of frequent threats to his safety. The Sunday Times has described him, accurately in the view of many, as champion of the ignored. His very large Twitter following is just one measure of how strongly his voice is listened to. In 2016, he took on a national role as Chief Executive of Police and Crime Commissioners in England and Wales. This came with media restrictions, so in May 2017, immediately after the Manchester Arena bombing, he resigned so he could appear on Question Time. A further example of his determination to speak his mind and of his integrity in choosing to give up the job so he could do so. Amongst many other things, he currently chairs Hopwood Hall Further Education College, sits on the Independent Press Standards Organisation, Oxfam's Safeguarding and Ethics Committee, and the National Police Chiefs Ethics Committee. He's National Advisor on Gender-Based Violence to the Welsh Government, and most recently he became Chair of the Catholic Safeguarding Standards Agency, and he joined the advisory board of Google's Innovation Fund for Counter-Extremism. His 2020 memoirs are being adapted for a British drama, and his new book, The Race to the Top, about structural racism encountered by British leaders of colour, was published last month. I can recommend both to you highly. He gives considerable time to charitable work and is trustee and patron of several women-led NGOs. Nazir's association with the university began formally in 2015 when he became an honorary lecturer in law. Staff and students alike felt honoured to be able to benefit from his knowledge and expertise. In 2017, he received an honorary doctorate of law on this very stage. The city was still grieving following the bombing at that time, something Nazir so eloquently acknowledged in his amazing speech. He said, "It is our cohesiveness and resilience that I take pride in. We are Manchester, this is Manchester University, and we will not be turned by hate." Nazir, these sentiments are ones that fully resonate with our values, as do your personal qualities, which is why we are so pleased to have you as our new Chancellor. The role of Chancellor is to act as the ceremonial head of the university and to be a high-profile ambassador. The Chancellor also has an important role in widening understanding of what universities do today, particularly the public benefit we deliver. We've been very fortunate to have outstanding Chancellors, including Anna, who is here with us today. I have no doubt you will carry on in the same vein, Nazir. It is now my great honour to install you as the Chancellor of the University of Manchester.
That's my song. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to first thank the President and Vice-Chancellor for her kind words about me, some of which are true. Becoming Chancellor is an immense privilege. I was born in Birmingham, nurtured professionally in London, and made in Manchester, which is now proudly my family's home. Like most Mancunians, I used to drive down the Oxford Road in the days you could without receiving a penalty fine. And wonder what happens to that institution that has its back to the road. I knew it had 44,000 students, 13,000 staff, 550,000 alumni, and had won 25 Nobel Prizes. But what does it really do, I asked myself. I quickly learnt that the largest one-site university in the country is both local and global. It led the world, and still leads the world, in its research capability. It developed the potential of so many who would ultimately change the world for the better. Its history is this country's history. Its achievements are its gift to the world. So when I was asked to be its Chancellor, I thought about it for as long as it took for Rutherford to split an atom, just over there. To be the ambassador for the work it does and the people who do it will be an extraordinary honor, and I can't wait to get going. The world we live in still remains unequal and dangerous for the poor and vulnerable in particular. I have dedicated my life and career to tackling inequality and protecting those who have not been listened to by those in power. This university is the great leveler. It's one of the means by which we identify and ensure that talent succeeds. In my chancellorship, I want to play my part in bringing the university closer to the people who have yet to see its power. It is no secret that I challenge the powerful, but less known that I help them to reconnect or to connect with those they lead. The people of this great region will appreciate that this great institution belongs to them. As the President and Vice-Chancellor said, I was very fortunate several years ago to receive one of my honorary doctorates in this exact room. Sat at the front was my mother, and she told me how proud I made her feel. She passed away tragically during the pandemic, and my family weren't able to mourn her passing, as hundreds of thousands have failed to do so properly in the last 2 years. Deep down, I know that she is still sitting there. And I wanted her to know how proud I was of her and everything she did for me and the rest of my family. She and my father came to this country to give their children and our families all the opportunities that may have been denied them in northwest Pakistan. And they suffered the indignity of racism, the challenge of poverty, and substantial heartache to enable me to stand before you today. It's the story of every immigrant and of every child. They taught me that some days you're the statue, and on others you'll be the pigeon. You know that you will be treated unfairly, but that will teach you the value of justice. You will suffer betrayal, but that will teach you the importance of loyalty. You will, at times, feel lonely, but that will teach you not to take your family and friends for granted. You never stop learning. This university stands up for what is right. It recognizes that you need to make sacrifices to care for your families and your neighbors and look after those weaker than you, especially those seeking refuge from suffering. This university builds great things. It makes massive technological advances. It explores the universe, cures diseases, enriches our culture, reaches for the stars, aspires to intelligence and does not belittle it. It looks for the truth, and it will find the truth. Manchester is nothing without its people, and it has some damn fine people, and I'm proud to be your Chancellor. Thank you. Should now say honorary doctorate section. It's with great pleasure that now I perform my very first duty, official duty as Chancellor, which is to honor 3 distinguished individuals with the conferment of honorary doctorates. Each of them has, in their diverse fields, contributed hugely to the good of society, and their achievements have had a positive impact beyond their immediate sphere of influence. As I said earlier on, I got an honorary doctorate here. I recognize that is the highest honor this university can bestow. And in conferring the honor, the university is not just recognizing these distinguished individuals, but it's making a statement about itself. Put it simply, we are honored by honoring you. In just a moment, the Registrar, Secretary, and Chief Operating Officer, it's one person, by the way, will escort the first of our honorary graduates, Amani Abuzaid, onto the platform where Professor Colette Fagan will present her. Edward Astle will then be escorted onto the platform, and the President and Vice-Chancellor will present him. Finally, Julie Hesmanhaus will be presented by Professor Maggie Gale. Before the ceremony ends, Edward Astle will address the congregation on behalf of all of the honorary graduates. So, it is with real pleasure that I now invite the Registrar, Secretary, and Chief Operating Officer to escort the first of our honorary graduates onto the platform for the conferment of an honorary degree.
Chancellor, distinguished guests and colleagues, I am honoured to present Dr. Amani Abuzaid to you today. I do so on behalf of Professor David Hume, Executive Director of the Global Development Institute, who very much wanted to be here with you, Amani, but is unable to do so because he's unwell. Dr. Abuzaid graduated from the University of Manchester with a PhD in socioeconomic development in 2001. She had great intellectual ability and great energy, successfully studying for a master's degree at Harvard University while writing up her doctoral thesis. Over the 30 years of her distinguished career, she has become one of the university's leading alumni in the sphere of international development. Her links with Manchester continue. Amani chairs the Global Development Institute's International Advisory Board for the African Cities Research Centre. Dr. Abu Zaid, who is from Egypt, has served in leadership roles at international organisations, including the United Nations Development Programme. Her early career focus was on poverty reduction, and this has broadened into infrastructure and energy programmes. In 2017, she was elected as Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the African Union, the multilateral body which promotes cooperation and development in its 55 member states. Amani was re-elected for a second term in 2021. She has advanced many programmes at the African Union, including the Single African Air Transport Market and the Broadband Commission for Africa. Previously, Amani was director of the African National Resources Centre at the African Development Bank. This innovative centre supports African governments in the effective and inclusive governance of natural resources. Alongside this, she forged deep links between the African Development Bank and Morocco and successfully contributed to the bank's mobilisation of concessional finance for low-income African countries. Dr. Abu Zaid has received numerous international awards for her leadership and professional excellence. This includes being selected as one of Africa's 100 most influential women, being decorated by His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco, and being recognised as a World Young Leader by the European Union. In her spare time, Amani competes regularly at dessert car rallies, I understand. 3 aspects of Dr. Abu Zaid's distinguished career stand out. First, her personal commitment to make the world a better place. The programmes she has run pursue the goal of social inclusion and not just economic growth. This is the contemporary challenge for the African continent. Second, Amani has shown the benefit of interdisciplinary approaches to real-world problem solving at the heart of Manchester's vision. Her BSc is in electrical engineering, she has an MBA in project management, and her PhD research focus on the socio-economic analysis of poverty reduction programs all come together. Third, Dr. Abu Zaid sets an example for women in high-level leadership positions. Her career has been in male-dominated institutions, but she has successfully broken through glass ceilings and championed gender equality. She provides an outstanding role model for the next generation. Chancellor, I am very pleased to present Dr. Amani Abu Zaid to you for the degree of Doctor of Social Science, honoris causa.
And by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the university, and with great personal pleasure, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Social Sciences, honoris causa.
So it's me again, but this time I get to say Chancellor, distinguished guests. Following a successful executive career in the telecoms and utilities sector, Edward's involvement with higher education began in 2008 when he was appointed Pro-Rector for Enterprise at Imperial College London. In his 5 years in that role, Edward led a team which supported the university's links with business, particularly for corporate research funding and its many international ventures. He also oversaw the university's relationship with Imperial Innovations, the university's technology commercialisation subsidiary. I was fortunate enough to meet Edward when he realised he was rather close to the University of Manchester, living in the Lake District. And so after leaving Imperial, Edward was appointed as a lay member of the University of Manchester's Board of Governors in September 2014. And after serving on the board for 2 years, he was appointed as chair in September 2016, succeeding Anil Rua. In his 6-year term as chair, which ended this summer, Edward has overseen and steered the board through a period of extraordinary external turbulence. The world looked so different back in September 2016 when Barack Obama was President of the United States, Theresa May was less than 2 months into her new role as Prime Minister, and Joe Johnson was Universities Minister. The Brexit vote had just happened, and the risk of a major pandemic featured on the minds of few, if any, of our risk registers. Gosh, what a long time ago that seems. The impact of the global pandemic presented the board and the executive, and indeed all of our staff and students, with unprecedented challenges. Faced with these extraordinary circumstances, Edward was an exemplary chair, especially during the pandemic itself when we faced lockdown. And he was very helpful in understanding the extra demands it placed on our board and our executive. And indeed, that was true throughout his time as chair. Edward consistently provided robust challenge, wise counsel, and supportive critical friendship to me in my role as President and Vice-Chancellor, and indeed to my fellow members of the senior leadership team. A great example of this challenging and constructive approach was the role of Edward, along with other board members, in the evolution of Innovation District Manchester. From a concept developed at a dinner with my senior colleagues, not too far from here, to the establishment of a formal joint venture. Innovation District Manchester is claimed to be the most ambitious project in Europe to transform our North Campus into the UK's Innovation District. As a key member of the dedicated working group established to oversee the project, and latterly as chair of the group, Edward ensured that both support and constructive challenge, enabling the establishment of the joint venture last year. Along with all of us, I'm sure Edward looks forward to seeing implementation of the vision for Innovation District Manchester over the next few years. Chairing the board of a university of the scale and complexity of Manchester, with over a £1 billion a year turnover, is no significant challenge. To do this in a way that achieves the respect and admiration of both past and present board members from all categories of membership and of the executive is indeed a rare feat. Edward ensured a robust and transparent approach to governance, as exemplified by comments received from fellow board members during his final evaluation as chair, which was reported to the board in July. Just a few examples. His dedication, selflessness, and a passion to further the reputation, performance, and future strength of the institution and its people is second to none. A calming and focused influence over a very challenging time for the university. His diplomacy and integrity has enabled the board and executive to navigate challenging situations very well. These comments from his peers are testament to Edward's major contribution to the university and the legacy that he leaves, though we hope he will not be leaving us entirely. And of course, in addition to this, he's done much charitable work in a number of different sectors. So, Chancellor, I'm very honoured to present to you Edward Afzal for the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa.
And by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the university, and with great personal pleasure, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa.
Chancellor, distinguished guests and colleagues, the University of Manchester is delighted to be conferring an honorary degree today on one of the UK's most loved actresses, Julie Hesmondhalgh. Known by millions as Hayley Cropper, the character she played on Coronation Street for some 16 years, Julie is an actress, producer, director, activist and author. Her huge accomplishments on stage and screen speak for themselves, with celebrated television roles more recently in Broadchurch, Cucumber and The Pact, and stage roles notably in Wit at the Royal Exchange in 2016, all of which evidence a career that many will envy. Julie was born in Accrington, Lancashire, and studied at Accrington and Rossendale College. She won a grant to study at LAMDA in the late 1980s, and it was from there that her career began. Julie's fantastic 2019 book, Julie Hesmondhalgh, A Working Diary, which I can recommend, it's a very good read, chronicles a year of work from 2016 to 2017 and provides an extraordinary insight into her life as a working actress and activist, with a deeply felt concern for changing the industry in which she works. Julie has campaigned relentlessly to open up the cultural industries to a more diverse workforce, pointing out and speaking against the elitism, the racism and the sexism which excludes many from entering the industry. Her work with Arts Emergency as a founding member of the Manchester-based activist Take Back Theatre, mentoring young artists, working with aspiring performers in colleges and schools, is the equivalent of legal pro bono work. There are very few in the industry willing to give back to the public realm with such determination and energy. Julie's activist work has also included campaigning for the Labour Party and setting up 500 Acts of Kindness, an extraordinary charitable fundraising organisation where donors commit £1 a week, which is pooled and donated. Julie's belief in the basic goodness of people and in raising our awareness of those whose lives are shaped by poverty or exclusion drives much of her work outside of theatre and television as well as in it. In her book, she writes of her dismay at the joyless dismissal of arts and culture by political parties who'd rather ignore them. Equally, she writes of the joy of working with young people, of seeing a West End show, of her genuine admiration for the work of other performers, the challenges and rewards of working in a precarious industry where one day's work on an advert could pay for the production of a whole play. For Julie, a National TV Award winner and BAFTA-nominated performer, an artist has to navigate between the incongruities of the industry and make sure they take advantage of all the contexts in which work can happen for them and for their comrades. Julie's new book, An Actor's Alphabet, out in November, will be essential reading for industry professionals as well as aspiring performers. Her humanity, her generosity, her energy and her dedication to political causes, her social interventions, and the pure joy she expresses in her work and the work of others make her a model of professional practice that all should aspire to. We're very glad indeed that she can be with us on this Foundation Day to celebrate the outstanding achievements of her career thus far. Chancellor, I'm very pleased to be able to present you Julie Hesmondhalgh for the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
And by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the university, and with great personal pleasure, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. I would now like to invite Dr. Afzal to address the congregation on behalf of all the honorary graduates.
Chancellor, honoured guests, it seems as though there's no rest for retired chairs. But this is no duty. This is an honour and indeed a privilege, a pleasure, to be able to respond on behalf of all three of us. I have spoken many times in this hall. I have sat on the podium where my successor Philippa is sitting now for Foundation Days annually in my time on the board and in chairing it. I would never have dreamt that one day I would be here as a recipient rather than as an observer. For me, chairing this amazing university for 6 years was privilege enough. It turns out that this award was as much of a surprise to Julie and to Amani as it was to me in our discussions beforehand. For each of us, it turns out, this is our very first honorary degree, so it makes it that much more special an occasion. So, beyond the surprise, it isn't just wonderful to be receiving this honour, but to be receiving it in such a grand and dedicated ceremony, wearing our resplendent gowns, being embarrassed by the over-generous citations. Each of us has got different connections to this university. Nancy didn't mention it. I was brought up in Manchester. I went to school in Manchester, but I failed to come to this university. I reconnected with the university. I connected for the first time with the university, I should say, and reconnected with the city of my birth when I applied to join the board 8 years ago. But I do have another connection. My father and my uncle were students at this university. They graduated perhaps in this very room, I'm not sure, over 85 years ago. My father had a phrase which he would tell all 4 of his children. And he would tell us that if a job was worth doing, it was worth doing properly. I have had a much more varied and much more fulfilling career, actually, than my father, but I've always tried to take his mantra to heart. I also feel, therefore, that I should share this honour with him. And I should share it with my wife, and indeed with my 4 children, who have, throughout my career, actually tolerated, put up with my travel and absences, my preoccupations and stresses, my priorities beyond the family. And indeed, Amanda would tell you that that continues to this day. I think it's equally the case, I know, talking to Julie and to Amani, that if you were standing in my place giving thanks on behalf of the 3 of us, you would equally want to mention the friends and colleagues who've been critical to your own success. So each of us, having had different associations with the place and with the city before, obviously will feel that we have reinforced links with the university, given the honour bestowed upon us today. In my case, I was already hoping to find ways to support the university, to help it find increased ways of supporting disadvantaged students throughout their journey from school into university, at university, and then into employment and the wider world. So today has only reinforced my determination to find ways to do this. So, to finish, on behalf of all 3 of us, I have to say we are immensely proud. We are very grateful to the university for honouring us in this way. Thank you.
Dr. Abuzaid, Astle, Hesman House, on behalf of the university, I would like to extend our warmest congratulations to you on your honorary doctorates and to offer each of you our very best wishes for the future. I now declare the ceremony closed. Please stand.